Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. It's Wednesday. Coffee is here in the shape of the greatest dad because that's what I do on Wednesdays. And with us, this as always, this Wednesday, as every Wednesday, is Gordo. Gordo, what's happening, man?
Hey, what's going on? Trying to put some good juju in the air with those jerseys. You posted that photo right before we jumped on. I forgot we were wearing the white and black oil slicks or whatever. So make sure
Yeah,
that's
I liked that jersey initially when I first saw it. And this is what happens with jerseys, right? Sometimes they just bring bad flashbacks. People always talk about, like the older jerseys and stuff, but some of them, man, I have like so many bad memories. It's not even funny. It's just like, milky English tea for me. As a Turkish guy, by the way, I was introduced to the milky English tea in London when I was in college there. Daniel, who's actually from Liverpool, got me. I mean, I was hooked on that thing, dude. Like, I'm kind of like that too, though. Like, I like a hot sauce, and before you know it, it's on fucking everything I eat. But the milky tea was like that for like months. Every class, that's what we're having. Sparky's with us as well. Um, Alan says, "Make my day a happy day. I will pass on your message to the team because they got the work done today." So we'll get to the game. I figured like we cover a couple of headlines first, and then we'll jump onto the game and do a quick preview. We talked a bit about it on Monday night as well, but a bit more clear now in terms of who's available and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get to that. So let's get to some of the headlines over here that we did not get to on Monday. So Spurs got whacked so bad. And that was like a ridiculous game. I mean, by the time I even remembered and to turn it on and stuff, the game was pretty much over. And I watched the highlights, which is kind of like watching all the goals. The first I mean, half of it was the first 20 minutes just because they were showing the goals over and over again. So it is pretty embarrassing to the point where they are reimbursing the fans who went to the match. And then actually it came out that the players are actually doing this. It's coming out of the players' pockets and stuff like that. What do you say about that? And doesn't this also make like I understand the sentiments and it's nice and everything, but at the same time, doesn't this send like a really bad precedent? Like when they lose 2-0 next week, are they going to be like, "Oh, this one wasn't that bad"? We're not
yeah.
refunding this one.
Yeah, my wife was actually, when I brought this up to her, she was joking like, "How many bad Chicago Fire games have we been to? Should we ask for those that money back?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, man, that stung a little because she's not really into soccer." So that one was like, obviously, I've dragged her to way too many crappy MLS games. Yeah, I agree with you. I was like, "Ooh, this one is a little weird," because now, what's the threshold? Is it five
Yeah,
goals, 4 goals? Are the players just gonna shell out? And it all stems from, we last week we talked about Todd Bowley with Chelsea with the owner, and this all stems from Dan Levy, like not admitting that it is his fault. This is his fault. How do you bring in an interim manager and then replace him with an interim manager? I just don't.
he's interim squared. Like,
Yeah, like when you bring in an interim manager, it's obvious. You make it obvious to everyone that this is not the guy. He can earn to be the guy like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, which thank God that he earned that because that was a hilarious season and a half with him. But it's ridiculous that you give him 4 games. It's like, yeah, we knew he wasn't the guy. You made that obvious by not actually hiring him, right? And so then you fire. It's like, this isn't our guy. We got to fire him and bring in another one. It's like, this is your fault, dude. Like, this is.
you guys are going to pay for the tickets, right? And as Alan points out, they basically paid for the tickets, not the travel cost because it was an away game to boot. I honestly don't think they would have refunded it. It was a home game anyway. This was a lot less tickets to refund, so it's probably a lot more doable. But yeah, I thought it was odd. I understand the gesture, trying to make up for the humiliation and stuff like that, but I feel like it sets a bad precedent, and it flat out says, "Yeah, we didn't even try on this one, so you guys can." Yeah, this wasn't even a game we didn't play. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, if United, I don't think United did that when we beat them 7-0, right?
No.
So, like to say, like you're saying, it's kind of like a gesture, probably coming from all the way to the top, and as everything that comes from the top at Spurs is a little misguided and does not really make any sense because like they're home. Like if we beat them again, then what? Like, do they refund again? Do they do only a partial refund on this one? First half wasn't that bad. We only sucked
Yeah.
the second half. I mean, so who's in bigger trouble, you think? I mean, Spurs or Chelsea? I think I know the answer already, but
Well, it has to be Spurs because Chelsea have nothing to play for now. You know, they're safe. They're not going to be relegated, and there's no way they're going to get near European spots. So season's over for them, and you know they can just play out and not make it as embarrassing. Spurs, I don't know how many seasons I can count back to that they've been in such a great position, and literally the only people that can knock them out of that position, almost guaranteed Champions League spot, is them, and somehow they managed to do it. You know, like 2 months ago, this thing was locked up. Everyone's fighting for fourth place now, and now we have a game in hand on them, and we're 3 points behind them with a much better goal difference. And all my Spurs friends, like fans' friends, 2 months ago, they were laughing at how poor Liverpool's seasons were, and Liverpool are probably going to finish the season better than them.
yeah.
So I think that Tottenham's in a bigger hot seat right now than Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea's an embarrassment, but Tottenham can still lose top four. It's very, very possible it's still within sniffing distance, and they'll probably lose it. If I was a fan, I'd keep my money, make top four. That's how you apologize to me. Because if I go to this and you slip out of the top four, I don't care about the 30 pounds. I think they said that the away ticket was 30 pounds. It's like, keep that, make top four.
Yes, Marcus is happily both London teams in the crapper. I mean, I think the easiest way to look at it is like, if you're a manager, which one is a better job? And I think it's a no-brainer that Chelsea's a better job, because not only, I mean, your job in Chelsea right now is probably to sort out the mess. And you got both owners who are probably over involved. I mean, we talked about this before, right? Like what we want from our owners, like how involved do we want them in the locker room? Do we want them at the games? Do we want them talking a lot and stuff like that? And that's one thing I like about FSG. It's like, let the people you pay do what they're supposed to do. And I don't think neither Chelsea or Spurs work that way. And I mean, dude, it showed up. We were waiting for Layla's game yesterday. We're in the car because it was cold as hell, as you know, here in Chicago yesterday.
Yeah.
And it showed up on my feed. I don't know why, but the press conference, if you have not watched that press conference, Conte's last press conference after the game, it's must-see TV. I mean, It's almost plays like an SNL skit. I was telling my wife. I mean, it almost looks like he's exaggerating his Italian accent, which he's not, but it was so hilarious. I was just dying just listening to it.
The best part about it too is he throws everyone under the bus except himself. He's he's a little bit to blame, and he throws everyone. He throws the kit man under the bus. He throws the lunch ladies under the bus, but he comes out unscathed. I don't think he says a single thing.
No, I think he said something like, I think his point was, you guys just freaking change managers like underwear over here. There's all this mountain of problems behind the manager, and you guys kind of ignore that. But he literally does throw everybody. And I mean, literally, it was like an SNL skit just listening to that. But if you've never seen that, YouTube it or whatever, it is hilarious. And it is very sadly accurate. I mean, you said you have Spurs fans. Like, how did they take what he said? Because he is, in some ways, calling it as it is. I know it's painful to hear, but did they appreciate that somebody came out and said it? Or they were like, man, we didn't want to fucking tell everybody.
Yeah, well, it was like it's painfully obvious, and it has been for years that is the reason. I mean, how many times do they chant that they want him to leave at games? I think the issue was it was their manager in a press conference when they're still fighting for top four. You know, it's like, yeah, right.
Conte was driving the bus, as Spartacus says,
But it's just like, maybe not from the manager after we lost the game. Like you said everything that everyone wanted to say, and so in some ways it needed to be said, and they were thankful for it. And then in other ways, it's like, man, those are your bosses too, so you kind of gotta take a deep breath and maybe save that for an internal discussion. and not doing it to the media. So it was like a mixed bag for them. It was a little bittersweet because it was like, yes, I feel the same way. Wait a minute, you just made the entire club look like a giant embarrassment on national television.
I don't know. That's it. We always used to talk about that in my old job. Like when you leave, like how do you leave? Like you set the place, like you walking away with the place exploding in the background, or and people would leave like their like keys at the desk and like go to lunch, never come back, and it'd be like, damn, bro, did you see what Joe did and stuff like that. And like it was like always talk. I ended up leaving in good terms because you never know and you don't want to burn bridges, but
yeah.
Like I felt like this was a great resignation letter of all time. I mean, it was just like I'm going out and I'm blowing the joint. And if you're Conte, I think you can afford to do that because anybody who hires him knows this is what you're getting. And honestly, in some ways, this is why I think United didn't get him because he was probably going to do the same thing in a press conference over there.
Yeah, and I think like the one thing with Tottenham too, you could look at the caliber of managers they brought in over the last 10 years, and these managers have won trophies with every team they've been at, except for Tottenham. So there has to be something that is Tottenham's fault, right? It has to be the Daniel Levy has to look at himself in the mirror and go like, I brought these guys in that have brought silverware to some of the crappier teams that they've been a part of, and I couldn't get them to win even the Carabao Cup. It's there's something wrong there. It's not Conte. It's not Jose Mourinho. It's something at the club just stinks. And frankly, for me, I don't think that Harry Kane is like the linchpin, which they've made him. They've built a team around him. I think he's the piece. I mean, you wouldn't say that Liverpool's built around Salah. Salah is the corner piece that you bring in, and you could lose Salah and bring another Salah in. You've got to get those other pieces that make the whole team click. And I think Tottenham have just chosen the wrong guy to build the team under. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He'll get any team he plays for, 20 goals a season, but I don't think he's the man that you build a team around.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out like what, and that's why, you look at the squad. I thought Conte brought some guys that really fit his system. But then, they just could never click. And when a team never really ever clicks, you have to look at stuff behind the scenes because there's that stuff affects it. This is not FIFA where you just pick the 11. If everybody is good, they play good kind of a deal. So, and I think, Alan was saying it. I think like Pochettino has agreed in principle to join Chelsea. And this is hot off the presses over here. See, within the last 30 minutes, which, like I say, it's a better job to have over the two. Because at least you have the talent. You just got to weed it out a little bit for one.
And you get a very large long-term contract that they're going to pay out anyway. So like even if it fails, you make money on the deal, right? Like they've shown that they're willing to spend more in telling a manager goodbye than they are in their transfer market when they spend a lot of money in the transfer market. But I think a couple of podcasts ago on my other pod, like Kelly and I were talking about like the amount of money in the last 12 years that Chelsea have spent on telling good managers goodbye, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it blows everybody out of the water. So it's a better deal in both respects. You get a better team, and then if it doesn't work out, you still get paid.
And I almost think going back to Kane and stuff like that, there's a good chance that there's Spurs players listening to that press conference and they'll be like, I ain't gonna lie, he's telling the truth kind of thing as you watch that and, bail out of there. So they have actually, in Chelsea, you have to weed out the talents. There's a ton of money spent, some of it misspent, but you got to kind of sell those guys, get what you can, maybe get a couple of players that are your style. And whereas on the other side in Spurs, I think you're going to lose some of your better players that if you took the job, you would think, okay, I have him, and then I have to add these pieces. They're like, wait, what? You're leaving? So I think that's the problem there. So they're going to be they will spend the money. It's a London team. They have the money. So they will probably, somebody will come in for the money because like you're saying, it's a guaranteed contract. Why the hell not? Somebody who's traveling around club to club. You think like a Brendan Rodgers or somebody like that will go there? Like,
I would love that. I would love that. To hear what his press conferences are some of the most baffling, like 30 minutes you'll ever listen to in your whole life, where he just like, absolutely love everyone's effort today. And it's like, what fucking game were you watching? They like picks out players. I just like he spent so much time writing in like this in his little notebook. I don't get why it's so close to his face. No one's looking like someone is gonna peek over his shoulder to get coaching tips from him. It's less like you could write that on a giant whiteboard. No one's gonna take your ideas.
He's got it behind the bench.
Yeah. He's so secretive about it. It's like no one cares. Your substitutions are garbage. You don't know how to tactically set up a team. No one's gonna take your ideas.
Yeah, good. Keep him to yourself. Like,
yeah, right.
Save the world of soccer. I honestly, this Sir Z is with us. Good morning, sir. The thing I don't never get about this, and I mentioned this before too, is the ridiculous secrecy in sports right now. Like, what is being said? I mean, like, what can you guys possibly be saying to each other that, like people come out of halftime, they're getting ready to start, they're like, oh, no. Like, what are you saying? Like, I mean, you're like, hey, make sure, like, when he runs wide, you do that, whatever. If you're talking about the game, obviously, unless you're talking about something totally different. You're like, did you check out the new Italian joint that opened up in the corner? Like, before the game, and you don't want everybody to know that you're talking like a non-game subject. I don't understand the ridiculous secrecy. I think it's out of habit now. Like, everybody closes their mouth like they're working for, like, CIA or something like that. It's like, bro, like, what are you saying that you don't want anybody to hear it when you're on the pitch next to the guy? It's not like somebody's going to watch that, read your lips, get on the phone and say, hey, the right back just told the center back to cover for him when he pushes up, heads up, or something like. I mean, like, so what is all the fucking secrecy?
They said pass the ball to Mo Salah. Let's change our tactics. It's just like I think it actually was West Ham against Liverpool in Brendan Rodgers' era that like he wrote something down on the piece of paper, and I'm almost positive it was Glenn Johnson gave it to John Flanagan, and he picks up, he looks at it and he crumples it up and throws it away. And I don't know who, I can't remember exactly who it was, but he just walks over and grabs a piece of paper and reads it. That was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. So,
I mean, you see like in NBA and stuff, like dudes like jokingly just like go into the other huddle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, even like start talking and saying shit and stuff like that. I mean, it's like, I like some of the things, it's one thing to see a play or something like that. So just as Flanagan ate the note. Sider says Chelsea having the financial stable owners but failed to comply with an appropriate coach. I think I don't know about that. It goes back to I think the same Spurs thing. I think Chelsea manager was set up to fail as well. I don't think they wanted the shopping spree. I guess if somebody is constantly bringing you nice things, like it's like you have, I don't know, you have a pickup truck already and somebody just drops off another new pickup truck and you're like, I guess, whatever, but I can't drive two pickup trucks at the same time. And, there's only one use for them. So I think, they were given things I really don't think they asked for. I mean, in terms of like Potter, for example, I don't think he said, I want this, and, but obviously if they were like, you want Mudryk? You know what? You got it, buddy. It's like, before you even got a chance to answer. That's how I envision how the talks go, especially if you have a guy who is coming. I don't know if you heard this rumor, by the way. It's going to be a totally Chelsea and Potter show. But one of the things that got on with Tuchel before he got fired was the fact that they did not let Bowley and his, I don't know, buddies maybe, that he brought to the game into the locker room at halftime. And they were like turned away. And they were like, how dare you? It's my team. It's my party and I'll cry if I want to, kind of a deal. And what do you make of that? I mean, this all goes back to the same thing again. An owner who is very overly involved and not just letting the manager do their job.
Well, like you said, it's usually like Conte said, like you're throwing all the issues on the manager and there's a mountain of crap that's burning behind you. And it's just like, that's the issue with both of those clubs. And Chelsea have always, since Roman Abramovich came, it's been more about collecting these players so that other teams can't buy them than it is about actually utilizing the players. I mean, I don't know if they still do, but a few years ago, they had like an insane amount of kids out on loan. It was like one of the biggest and
Yes.
most bloated loan systems. I don't know if that's still the case, but I just remember feeling as though they went out, they bought a ton of scouts, found all the talent, and let's sign them. So either somebody gives us money for them, or other teams can't utilize these kids, and that's obviously that's another reason, like I said last week, is why I think Roman Abramovich still owns this team, because what is nothing has changed. All it is a face. Some guy comes in, he's like, "Hey, I'm Todd. How's it going?" And it's just he's like a corporate shill. He's just like the mouth of Sauron, basically, for
but Roma sent his like accountant. Okay, you're gonna act like an American guy.
Yeah.
just watch Ted Lasso and do stuff like that. Just go in there and duplicate that. Alan says Chelsea would fail even if Galley and Bickler went in there. Trust me, if Galley and Bickler went in anywhere, they're set up to fail by itself. Insider says Galley will assist me. Trust me, if Galley and I are in charge of anything, that place is imploding. It's very, very fast over here. Okay, so let's get to tonight's game. I guess we won't be able to save. I don't know who will be able to save Chelsea and Tottenham, and hopefully nobody does. But okay, so these jerseys are in effect later today against West Ham. So Sada says with Antonio, want to see either Gomez or Matip, but yeah, and that's the problem. I thought Konate would be the perfect person to go against an Antonio, especially like physically. So if Konate can't go, that's kind of like a risky ordeal. What kind of a lineup are you waiting? How much rotation will be there? Because this was for a while ideal scenario for Klopp, where this 11 works, try them out, but not in every 3 days, especially when it comes to Henderson and Fab and stuff. So what kind of a lineup are you expecting?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of rotation. And West Ham scoring 4 goals in their last game. I mean, they haven't really put the ball in the back of the net. So I'm hoping it's like our situation where we score 6 and then we can't do anything against Crystal Palace. So that's what, fingers crossed, they've like scored all the goals they can for a week and it will breeze through it. But yeah, I think there's going to have to be a lot of rotation, especially because we play again at the weekend and then we play again midweek. So we've got a kind of a bloated schedule in the upcoming weeks.
So who do you see in midfield, I guess? Or like, let's start with the back line because there will be some changes there. Like, do you expect to see like Costas or somebody out there? I think you kind of like, you have to have Trent in there. Van Dijk is in there. Konate, we don't know, but do you put Costas in there?
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting one. Because he's what, 2 games ago was the last time he played, so not last midweek game, but the weekend game before that. I'm pretty sure it was
so. It's been a while. And I'll be honest, like it's been a little like disappointing to see how he played when we were struggling. That's when you feel like you bring these guys off the bench and they're gonna make an impact and elevate your game.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't. Like it was more like we're playing crap now, I'm in, and then like he just kind of like went along with the rest.
Yeah, I feel like we'll see a lot more of these fringe players because it's West Ham and we play Tottenham this weekend, don't we? So that's a much bigger game in terms of top 4. So you want to rest the guys that you want, like Andy Robertson, well, everybody this year, but Andy Robertson in particular, there's a few guys that like are really, you can tell they're tired. They need that week rest. And so I think for someone that's supposed to be making a big impact like Robertson, I think you rest them in this game. Because it's not going to be, they're not going to come in from the wings too much. It's going to be, they're going to be going after Antonio, which is mostly up the middle or long kicks and, kick and chase or dump and chase. So you're not going to need too much coverage on the wings.
Yeah, because we play today and then Sunday, Tottenham home, then Fulham home right away after like Wednesday. So that's like even less of a break. And then we go Saturday home again, Brentford, and then that's when we get the 9 days before we go to Leicester and see if they got relegated by then or if they stayed themselves. But I mean, here's a good question though. I mean, West Ham kind of climbed out of the hole a little bit, right? With the points they got recently, they're at 34 now, so they're about like 6 points ahead of Everton, and a game in hands on top of Everton and everybody under them right now. As a team, do you want to play against teams that are like, let's say, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Everton, Leicester, Leeds, who really need points for relegation? Or would you rather play against a team that's like Fulham, got really nothing to play for, but at the same time, that also means they're very relaxed because they've got nothing to lose.
So
By opponent.
Before these midweek games, I thought Palace was safe in terms of points. I couldn't see them getting pulled in. With yesterday's win, that means that Wolves are now tied on points with them. So you'd assume 37 is probably safety. So if West Ham are probably only looking at getting another 3 points, because I really don't think Palace and Wolves are going to get dragged in that relegation zone. So if you're looking at mathematically, I think West Ham could survive with 3 points. And what they've got 6 games remaining. They're one of the ones with 6 games after this one.
They have 7.
Okay, so they've got plenty of time. So I don't think they're going to look at this one as a must win, which might help us. And they play over the weekend. And do we know who they play? Because that might dictate their lineup even.
Let's see. Let me give you that schedule here. West Ham plays Palace away.
So
they get a rough run. Then they go to City. Then they have United at home.
Oh, so they might be looking to just scrap. They have to sort of scrap out because that's 4 games. Palace is probably the one that they're circling going, we can at least we could get 3 points here. I mean,
they're still playing Leicester. I mean, they're playing Tottenham, so they're to close out the season.
That's a really tough run-in.
Yeah, I mean, they go to Brentford, and obviously they have the Alkmaar games in between. Like Brentford game is sandwiched in between. Leeds at home, away to Leicester City, and then Tottenham. But no, that Tottenham that must be that tournament or something because it's in July. Never mind. They finish away at Leicester.
Yeah, so I would probably say the Leeds, Leicester, and Palace games are the ones they're circling because if Leeds are still below them and they beat Leeds, they've secured their own safety just by.
But if I let you pick an opponent, are you picking an opponent that's kind of like in the shitter, trying to not get relegated, or are you picking a team that's comfortable, doesn't have relegation worries, which also makes them dangerous because they got nothing to lose?
Yeah, that again, here's my political, like I was doing last week, here's the political answer. Yes to both.
I mean,
they probably will be coming out now when you read the schedule out. I mean, it's almost, they have to play as hard as they can in the remaining games because you're probably not going to get anything from City. You're probably not going to get anything from United. Liverpool's a tough one this year. They're hot and cold, so they could either destroy you or you can roll them over. And then Leeds, Leicester fighting for relegation. Palace would view West Ham as an opponent they can probably take 3 points off of. So, that's a difficult run-in. So it's like, let's go out there and play as hard as we can and put everybody out there and run us into the ground and see what happens. So, yeah. Now that you mentioned their schedule, it's probably tougher.
Yeah, Sparky says they'll get 3 draws starting with tonight's because I know he's going to go with the 2-2. He's been going 2-2 all week. So, I mean, that's the thing. I don't know by the time they get to the end and they play Leeds at home and away Leicester, I don't know if Leeds or Leicester will have said, will have thrown in the towel by then. That really depends on that. I feel like they're safe. I mean, you look at the standings right now, Leeds and Leicester are behind them and they have 2 games in hand over West Ham. So West Ham is the only team there with like 31 points. They could actually, if they, God forbid, win today, if they won the games in hand, they would be like above Chelsea. So they would be right next to under Brentford. They would be 11th right now. So mind you, Chelsea has 2 games in hand too, looks like. But it's going to be tricky. I mean, I think like they would think against those tough games like today's game and even United's game with all the injuries they have, they would say, yeah, we might get a draw out of this, or they can just look at the schedule and say, let's just draw at home and we're good. But yeah, it's going to be tricky for us as well. I don't know. I'm treating all these games as kind of like more of a preseason look because I think Saito was talking about, if you have any chance of making top 4, we need to play top players. That seems so freaking unlikely that I don't want to risk somebody being run into the ground and freaking, get injured and be out summer or some stupid stuff like that. Let's just play who's available, who's healthy, work on what we got. Let's figure out what we have. And I think that's why we see Jones playing so much, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he definitely fell out of favor with Klopp. In the beginning, the turn of the year, his performances were garbage, and I didn't see any performance that was like, all right, he can come back into the team now. But I don't watch training, so something may have changed. But seeing him being utilized more tells me that Klopp's looking to rotate this very tired. I mean, they were tired at the beginning of the year, so I can't even imagine what it's like now. So yeah, I think that has a lot to do with why we're seeing Jones.
I think so too. I mean, we kind of like disagree with this with the boys on Monday. They're like overly impressed by his play. I am not as impressed, but I am okay with. I think he's shown enough that he can be your 5th or 6th choice midfielder, or maybe like 7th. But I hope to God you're not counting him in the top 3 or 4 as your midfielders, because you're in trouble then. I think, when we were kicking in all gears and you needed somebody to spell the midfield in a League Cup game, FA Cup game, and stuff like that, he would come in and be like, this kid is going to be ready to go, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we did the same thing with like Ben Woodburn. He had like 2 good games. It was like, who needs Coutinho? We got Ben Woodburn. But I think in a team that's well-functioning, he can be your really, really end of the depth. I'd rather count Jones as depth, for example, as opposed to what we did with Keita and Ox and stuff like that for depth. At least he's going to be a guy. I know he's had injury issues and weird ones like the eye injury and stuff like that, but he's going to be more available. And when he's out there, he's going to give you the 100% every single time. So I'm okay with him being counted as like 6th, 7th, 8th midfielder next season. I think he's shown enough for that. So as he says, Klopp won't give up. He still believes we can make top 4. I think, yeah, I mean, probably behind the scenes, they were like, I mean, they're probably saying all we can do is win every game and then let the chips fall where they may, kind of a deal. Having said that, do you even expect a run like that? I mean, we all want it, but is it even realistic? Or these 2 wins and like, shaky wins at that, especially the last one here, give you enough of a hope that we turn around the corner, here they come, kind of a deal?
Yeah, well, we went on that tear, and then we played Crystal Palace, and we couldn't even get a goal against them. That was before Uncle Roy came in, or I should say Grandpa Roy now.
I was gonna say, they're like wheeling him out there every game.
Okay, wave to the crowd now.
No, not that crowd, the other crowd. Yeah. That's way past.
Turn around. That's the women's bathroom. Yes. So, and we couldn't, it was a 0-0. It was one of the most boring games of the season. And so I wouldn't even form this year is out the window, because at that point I was thinking, this is where we turn the season around. This is where we get some points. We win the winnable games and maybe slug out some of the tougher ones. And then I watched that and I was like, nope, this is just, it was a good little luck, a lot of little pieces of luck. We had, I think in that run before Palace, there was like 3 games in 5 where like a VAR call went our way, like very early in the game. And so I think it was a lot of luck. And then I saw that and I was like, nope, this is still the same team that we've been watching all year. So I wouldn't say these 2 wins on a bounce are going to change our fortunes. And I can't see us winning the 6 in a row. So it'll be tough. I think that, you have to give it your all. And I think that mathematically 4th place is still available, and how flexible those teams have been ahead of us, it's possible, but somebody's really going to have to drop the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you almost need like 2 teams to really drop the ball. I mean, because you got Newcastle, who we are now 9 points behind, and United 9 points behind as well, but they have a game in hand. So it's going to be, like you're talking about a major collapse by one of those guys, and a big run by us. And meanwhile, I guess we don't expect Tottenham to have a huge run, but Villa could just do the same thing. They're closer than us. They're like 4 points. I guess now Villa, we might tie today. Not today, but, if we win our games in hand, we'd be above Villa, because they're like, 5th is definitely realistic. I go with that. And in the Thursday nights to become, I think is what's going to happen. But
Mm.
And I think they will get there. Like, I mean, you use the word winnable games, and that's the problem I have. I just don't see any
Yeah,
game. You don't look and say, that's easily winnable. That one is
right.
going to be a tough one, because they're all like, that's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough one. It feels like every game is going to be a challenge for this team to be able to get there. But having said that, Jones, side, this is, I agree with you. I definitely put Basetic ahead of him. But at the same time, they're kind of like, in terms of depth, they're like depth in different parts of the midfield, right? I mean, Basetic is going to be more whoever we sign for that defensive midfielder positions, and he's going to be in that mix. Whereas Jones is going to be in the mix with Elliott and I don't know who else. So I definitely put Basetic in there, and those are the young guys that you're okay. I feel it's okay to count on. You have to bear in mind though that Basetic is going to be coming off of an injury, so I don't know how much that will impact that. Before we go, let me get your prediction on the front three starting today.
Oh, you got to go with Diogo Jota.
All of the above.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You have to give Jota. You have to go Salah. Because isn't he's close to some kind of a record against West Ham, right? If he's
He's at 9 goals. This was the trivia question on Monday. Toshak is actually number 1 with 10 goals for Liverpool against what? And I think along with Watford, this is the team he scored the most against with 9 goals.
Okay, so you got to go Salah.
Jota. Wealth of useless information here. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, I mean, when form can't be a factor, you have to go for the flash in the pan. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think that Bobby's fully fit yet because we haven't really seen him in like a starting role, so I wouldn't put him there. I think you're going to have to go with Nunez. I just, he doesn't get the goals that I think that we all wanted, but I think because everyone compares him to Haaland, who's like getting too many goals,
Yeah.
And but he always puts in a shift. His work rate is unquestionable. So I think you're going to have to go with that because it's not going to be an easy game. I'm predicting like a slug out in midfield for most of it and a couple fast breaks. So you got to go with the hot hand.
Not a good thing for us, is it?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. When you look at their midfield and our midfield, it's probably not a good to go into that slugfest. With Nunez, I mean, I was talking about this on Monday. I appreciate the effort, but I think it's sometimes misguided. Like he's playing a different game than everybody else. And the challenge is going to be getting him in our game and using that energy like defensively. And I think, I mean, I said the same exact thing. I think like his biggest disadvantage has been coming along with Haaland and kind of like comparing. And I feel like when we're defending, he's more worried about let's get the ball right away and so I can go score, so I can show that I can score too, kind of a deal. That he's losing his positioning. He doesn't defend as well because he's more, talking about, Sergi says Bobby is up for at least 3 more games. Yeah, I think he's he will make like his last couple of games for his farewell tour. Sounds like. I wish they found a way, but the word is he's going to Barcelona, and I'm assuming he's like, hey, if I'm going to sit on the bench, I guess I'll go hang out over there for a little bit. I want everything over here, kind of a deal, but. We'll miss Bobby anytime you see Bobby out there. But having said that, has Bobby become our like romantic relationship we have with Bobby and how much everybody loves him and like all the moments and stuff? If you look at his availability this year, it's been you don't want to put it at Keita levels, but he has been out a lot. So maybe that age is catching up with him after all.
Yeah, and I really felt like last year he didn't have a great season last year either, and his availability was sporadic. And I really feel like had he been firing early on, we would have walked away with the league because I think we were just missing. We had so much contribution from elsewhere on the field, and it's just like, but Bobby was, we missed his 10, 15 goals. So there's part of me that thinks that him being. He came to at the end of the year. I remember that when everyone's like, "Oh, shut up, haters." Like, yeah, but there's 2 halves of the season and he gets paid a lot of money to score goals. So I think I'm okay to be a little angry in October when he misses sitters. So, yeah, maybe it is the age.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, he's been, and it's a guy who his game is all about like energy, the running, the press, and dropping back and build up play. So when you kind of take that energy away, his game is going to struggle because, like you say, I mean, his key is not finishing, or he's not like a clinical scorer in the box or something like that. He's more in the build-up play and his pressing and stuff. And if that's going to diminish with availability and age, obviously his value goes down a lot. That's probably not how they're going to use him, I would think, at if he goes to Barcelona, but still. I mean, yeah, we'll miss him. Part of me says, man, I wish he would stay in the time I see him, but at the same time, I'm like, is it going to be a guy that we count as depth who's never going to be available? So,
right.
Okay, before we part, predictions. What do you expect to see? Give me a final score from today. I'll write Sparky's down over here, 2-2, but I'll save him the keyboard time.
Yeah, that's a good educational guess, because I really do think it's a midfield slug out, and I don't think that suits us well. But I'm going to go on the positive spin, and I'm going to say we crush the curse of the jerseys and 2-1. I think it's all West Ham at the end of the game, and none of us can close our buttholes, and we just finish out the last 5 minutes just absolutely terrified on the edge of our seats. But I think we come out with a win.
I'll take that. Cider says 2-0. I can't say. I think you had the same prediction Monday Night Podcast too. I can't just bet on a clean sheet right now on this team. I think we're still adjusting to this inverted fullback and all that kind of setup there. And if Konate is not going to be there, I don't even know if we're going to try that, because you need Konate's speed. Otherwise, it would have to be Gomez in there. And it would be interesting to see, because we did our move. We saw what adjustment can be done by Forrest. In terms of leaving Konate and stuff all day on the ball. We saw Konate adjust a little bit in the second half, so it's going to be interesting to see how we come out today and what our new plan is for that, because that's what I'm more looking at, because I really think this is kind of building blocks for next season in terms of how we're going to build up the squad too. But Ellen is sticking with the 3-1. I love that prediction. I would like to jump on board, but sadly, I'm going to go probably with yours. It's going to be a lot more painful. 3-1 seems way too easy. My doctor would love it, but it ain't going to happen. I predict more of a painful 2-1. But hey, if it's a win, I'll take the pain. We'll beat the curse. Maybe I'll go get this jersey. It does the oil slick in effect today, so we'll see how it goes. Thanks a lot, Gordo. Thanks to all those watching, listening. Do not forget, it is the 26th today, which means we only have 4 days left on this thing. So if you have not done so yet, we have about 10-15 items still that do not have any bids. So hop on there and place a bid. And if you do not want to bid, there's also the fundraiser going on. We're almost at 1,500 now, way below what we were hoping for. But I'm hoping we're going to make it a good run over here in the last 4 days and creep a lot closer than we have. So we'll see how it goes. I agree with Sir Z, but I don't see if Matip defending at the same time. That's the thing. Matip would be goal. The Matip 3 years ago against Forrest would not be able to do that, first of all, because the dude plays like a defending midfielder. But we're gonna have to get center backs. We're gonna have to make sure our center backs are good on the ball, that people are going to try to take Trent away. But let's see how it goes. Let's see what West Ham does, and then let's hope tomorrow night when the boys get on the podcast, they're dissecting a win and not dissecting their brains, and we'll see how that goes. You guys have a great Wednesday.